Was 14 years old. I remember sitting in my school. I was at a private boys' school, a Catholic private boys' school, where I grew up in Australia. And I was sitting at my desk. I had my little cub hat on and my high socks. And I was sitting there in religious class, waiting for my turn to read a passage from the Bible. And I remember looking down the line and seeing that it was coming up to my turn to read a passage. And as it was coming towards me, I started to feel more and more nervous. I remember just like feeling that squidgy in my tummy and starting to sweat, like my palms starting to sweat. And as it came to me, and then I was asked to read. And I started to read, and as I was starting to read, I started to stutter and I stumbled through the passage, and I remember feeling like physically my whole world was just shrinking in on me. It was almost like I remember thinking at the time, I remember it vividly, that everyone in the class must think that I'm an idiot. Everyone in the class must think that I can't read. And I remember that experience. It was quite visceral. It was quite like overwhelming. Now, first of all, I don't know if you've ever had an experience like that before, where you were speaking or reading or talking to a group and you just felt like your whole world closed in on you. You felt stupid. You felt silly. You felt like people were judging you. And I remember that experience really impacted me in a negative way for many years, probably like 10 or 12 years. And it was very much at a subconscious level. Like, it wasn't like I was walking around thinking, hey, I just had this experience and it made me feel like an idiot, right? It wasn't until I was getting into my 20s that I realized that this experience had affected me emotionally and subconsciously. And this is what I know, is that when you build confidence, if you want to get on stage, if you're a coach or an expert or a speaker, you want to get on stage and really command the stage and create what we've called ridiculously sexy confidence, then there are 3 things that I recommend you to do to really get yourself into the right space, headspace, physical space, so that you can deliver with a sense of confidence. Now, if you can appreciate that experience that I had, of you relate to that experience that I had at the start that I shared, let me know down below. Just write yes or relate. Love to hear if you're watching the replay. So the first one is, when you come into a presentation, don't think of it as a presentation. Think of it as a conversation. Now, this is one of the big shifts that students make in Sell From Stage Academy, is when they shift and they realize that speaking on a stage, if you make it a presentation, it's going to feel stifled. It's going to feel like really structured and almost like you can't be yourself. It's going to like lack authenticity. And so if you really want to command the stage, don't think of your presentation as a presentation. Don't think of it as a speech. Think of it as a conversation. And this is what I recommend, is that even in the first line of when you open up, say something like this: hey, it's great to have this conversation with you tonight. And so when you say the word conversation, there's this subconscious idea of transferring ideas to each other, that it feels like a conversation. Does that make sense? And so the first one is, don't make it a presentation, make it a conversation. Now the second one, and this is a big one when it comes to confidence, and in fact, this one specific strategy can be the difference between feeling in fear or feeling in confidence in like 1 second. That's the biggest like, it can literally be that quick. And so the second one is, don't focus on yourself, focus on the purpose. Now, a lot of people teach focus on others, or you've heard that old adage of like, picture the audience naked. Don't do that. And yes, you can focus on others, but I think more importantly, you need to focus on the bigger picture, the bigger purpose of why you're actually there. Does that make sense? And so whenever you're doing a presentation, which is really a conversation, you come in and have this like picture in your mind of what you want to achieve. Have this picture in your mind of what you want it to look like and the outcome that you want to have for the audience, and think about them even doing those things. And as you do that, you'll notice yourself shifting from focusing on yourself to focusing on others and the outcome or the purpose. So that's the second one. Don't focus on yourself, focus on the purpose. And the third one is, this is a big one, is don't trust untrained intuition. Practice the hell out of it. What I mean by that is practice yourself hot. Now, what the mistake that people make is that they think they can come into their presentation, and because they have it in their head, when they get up, they speak it out and they'll actually be able to communicate it effectively. That is not true. You must practice yourself hot. I love what T.D. Jakes says. T.D. Jakes is a preacher. I think he's one of the best communicators, top 5 communicators on the planet right now, other than myself. No, I'm joking. He's a beast, right? And, but maybe. And T.D. Jakes says this, I love this, and obviously this is from like a preacher perspective, but I think you can relate to this. He says, when he gets himself ready to speak, he thinks himself clear, he prays himself hot, and then he lets himself go. And so what you need to do is, preparing for your presentation, you need to think yourself clear, practice yourself hot, and then let yourself go. And if you are just trusting untrained intuition, in other words, if you haven't learnt how to structure a presentation persuasively, if you haven't learnt the story arc and how to communicate that effectively, if you haven't learnt what you should put in and what you should leave out of your presentations, then you're actually just trusting untrained intuition. Does that make sense? And so what I'd love to do, actually, if someone is watching the replay, type out those 3 things that I mentioned, those 3 things to help people as they go through this training. Now, if you haven't yet, I'd love you to grab, because if you're really serious about doing this properly, you should grab my Persuasive Content Builder. The Persuasive Content Builder is like a really easy to use structure map that gets you to think clearly about what's going to be most persuasive in terms of the angle and the content of your presentation. And so if you're interested in the Persuasive Content Builder, just write the word persuasive down below, and we'll send you a link where you can download it. Just write the word persuasive. So, hey, I hope that was helpful. I encourage you to continue to lean in to get on stage, whether it be a Facebook Live stage, a webinar stage, or the Mecca, the live stage. I really want to encourage you to lean into that, because it's going to build your authority. And I tell you what, if you don't have authority in the market, people aren't going to buy from you. And so the quickest way to build authority is to get on a stage. People see you on a stage, even if they see photos and videos of you on a stage, all of a sudden, almost instantly overnight, you become an authority. And so that's why it's so important to get on stage. And so type the word persuasion down below if you want to get the Persuasive Content Builder, and we'll send it over your way. Hey, bless you guys. I hope this is helpful. Tag someone if you think this will be useful for them, and bless you guys. Thanks so much. And if you haven't yet, make sure to join the Expert Edge group, where I share lots of different content and ideas around building your expert business. That's the Expert Edge group. And we'll see you soon. Have a great day. Talk soon. Bye.